Hello, my name is Ruby Harvey, and I'm new to YouTube, and I'm trying to start a channel. So I would like for you to become one of my followers, and if you think what I have to say is interesting, please subscribe and follow me. So today, in honor of Black History, and in honor of my ancestors, I have chosen a topic today, and the topic is crying out to God. And that crying out is when our blood cries out to God. So what does that term mean? Because I hear a lot about crying out in the blood of our ancestors, but why would blood need to cry out? So for us today, when blood cries out, it is a demand for justice, for the unshedding of blood, for the unjust shedding of blood. It means to hold one accountable for their actions. It represents pain, trauma, unresolved past wrongdoings of generations that can no longer speak or fight for themselves, crying out for recognition, reckoning from the past into the present and the future, through the lingering effects in the form of a curse. So it's generational. If your ancestor or somebody in your past have been wrong, they're still held accountable for what they've done. Maybe not in this life, but surely in the life to come. It represents pain, trauma, unresolved past wrongdoing for generations that can no longer speak for themselves. It signifies that the shedding of blood through violence pollutes the earth, echoing their suffering from the past, and demand accountability and resolution. Just because the events have passed, just because the events are over, doesn't mean that we are not accountable, and it doesn't mean that justice will not be served. So crying out for blood is a powerful metaphor, which is first mentioned in Genesis chapter 4. And in Genesis chapter 4, you read the story of Cain and Abel. This is the first mention in the Bible of the shedding of blood. In Exodus 12, blood was placed over the Israelites' doors as a sign for the angel of death to pass over. In addition, God is also demonstrating the fact that he is protecting Israel's deliverance from slavery. The Egyptians, just like us, were slaves, but yet God brought them out. Foundational Black Americans' ancestral bloodlines has been broken because of our original tribal ancestors' bondage in slavery in America. When we say God of our fathers here in America, we are talking about the God of the original slaves that were brought to America on slave ships. At first, there was no unity among the slaves, and this was because they were stolen from different parts of Africa. Therefore, language was their first barrier that they had to conquer. Their transition involved the creation of a new blended culture. They had to reinvent themselves while fighting for justice and through oppression. Today, our connection to our ancestors is maintained through our bloodline. We are interwoven through our DNA. The original slaves carried within them the blood of our ancestors, and we are grafted because of our forefathers. We lost our pure ancestorship on the slave ships. Once we got on those ships, we were no longer who we were. We all became different. In America, the gospel that is preached is a lie. Black people were systematically erased from the Bible. We have been deceived. Every church in America is based upon lies. The God of our ancestors was the same as the God of Isaac, Abraham, and Jacob, and all the other ancient biblical narratives. We have been written out of the Bible. Our presence, even though we're in the Bible, but it's not acknowledged that black people are in the Bible. According to Ephesians, the 3rd chapter, there's a time and place for everything under the sun. Every black American should have a DNA test done in order to find out which tribes their original ancestors originated from. You see, we've lost so much through history. So I would like to encourage you to get your DNA test done and let them tell you what parts of the world you're from, because a lot of us don't know. I've had mine done. My daughter had hers done. And I encourage you for your own sake to get yours done and know where you came from. In Numbers, the 35th chapter, verse 33, it says this: "You shall not pollute the land in which you are in, for blood pollutes the land, and there's no expiation can be made for the land except for the blood that shedded upon it. Those who shedded the blood must pay the price." I want you to understand that. Those who shed blood must pay the price. The blood of slaves lived on the soil in America. Therefore, America has a debt that must be paid. Numbers 35 says this. It's Numbers 35. The 35th verse and the 33rd chapter. 35th chapter and the 33rd verse. "So, you should not pollute the land in which you are, for blood pollutes the land, and there is no expiation that can be made for the land that is shed on it except by the blood of those who shed it." So now it comes to this: why is America guilty? And why must a debt be paid? American land is soaked in over 700 years of bloodshed, and that blood is crying out for justice. So here are some key instances that I've written down. Genesis 4:10. God himself confronts Cain after he murders his brother Abel, and God says, "The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground." This highlights the gravity of Cain's action and the importance of justice. God recalls what is past. God recalls what is past. And God repays. God repays. And America have a long history of bloodshed. Hebrews 11:14 says that Abel's death in his faith is described as still speaking. And this is this: even though he's dead, his blood is yet alive, and it is still speaking through his blood. He is alive and still speaking through his blood, emphasizing the significance of faith in God's righteous judgment. God repays. Revelation 6:10. The martyrs cry out for God's vengeance, indicating the ongoing struggle between good and evil. The cry started on the slave ships with the blood of those that died in transition. These instances illustrate the deep impact of blood crying out in the biblical narratives, represent not just the physical act of shedding blood, but also the spiritual and moral implication of sin and the call for divine justice. The blood of our ancestors has a profound spiritual significance, often seen as a connection to our heritage and the divine. It symbolizes vitality, strength, and the flow of life force itself, linking us to the earth and our ancestors. In many cultures, blood is revered as a sacred substance, believed to contain the essence of the God and the divine. So, we are part of nature. And this is part of our natural order. We need blood. Blood is also used in rituals to honor and communicate with our ancestors. This connection allows us to tap into their wisdom, guidance, fostering a sense of identity and purpose. Additionally, blood rituals often involves offering of blood to spirits, emphasizing the importance of family and community ties. So the reason blood cries out is because of, as I said before, something has occurred, something has happened, and the blood still cry out to God to help. Vengeance is mine, says the Lord. So I'm going to leave you with this. There's a demand for justice due to unjust bloodshedding. And remember this, if you remember nothing else, God repays. Every debt that is owed will be collected upon. God repays. Thank you for listening. I hope you become a follower of mine. And I hope you like and share and become a subscriber. Thank you.